nincsen gond. Az Egyesült Államokban pedig attól függ persze, hogy melyik part, de mondjuk ahol 9 órányi az eltolódás, még viszonylag fönt lehet lenni, főleg péntek este. Úgyhogy ott nincs ezzel probléma.
Megnézhetjük, hogy a szervezők kiket emeltek ki. Szokás szerint jön egy rövid bemutatás. Rosemary Vangiru mindenképpen ide kívánkozik, aki a világ idei legjobb eredményével rendelkezik. A Tokió maratonit nyerte meg 2 óra 16 perc 28 másodperces futással. Ő az, akit elsőként láthatunk. Itt lesz majd az izraeli színe.
Good night. Good night, track fans in the United States. We are saying good morning to anyone joining us in Europe as the World Championship Marathon is now underway. The athletes just taking off as we settle down with cups of coffee in hand for an exciting 2 hours and something minutes for what is the CITIUS Mag watch-along party. This is not...
Hot take, Kyle. No sub 2 today?
Yeah. This is no race commentary stream. This is sitting down and watching the race with a bunch of friends because presumably our viewers may not have friends who are up with them from 12 to 2 a.m. to watch it with. So we'll step in and be your friends this evening.
Or you're playing one hell of a CITIUS Mag drinking game. Every time Chris talks about running New York, or every time Kyle mentions that he's got a daughter, just take a drink.
I didn't go outside yet. What's it like?
It is lovely this morning. It's the earliest we've been up, so it's definitely the coolest. Should be getting up at this time more often to do our runs, but that hasn't been happening. No, it's nice. I'm not sure how the temperature will progress over the next 2 hours, but right now it's absolutely perfect. So I think that's the main thing, at least starting off, that you're not overheating and stuff like that, or on their warm-ups. So yeah, it's an absolutely lovely morning. And the great thing about Budapest here during the week is just there's been absolutely no wind.
It has been. I almost feel like you want the tiniest bit of wind.
Yeah, to cool off. Yeah, true.
Even just as a fan, it's brutal in the stadium. But no, this morning, a little bit better. When it's been getting hot when
it's been hot the whole time.
Yeah. I'd say
I mean these guys will be okay. I think it's in the 70s right now.
I know. Another hour it'll start to pick up a bit. I suppose 7 a.m. here now, so after 8 going 9 o'clock, it'll start to heat up a bit.
It's 72 in Budapest right now. The humidity has not been terrible, which is I think going to be really critical for these ladies as they run. It's not sticky hot. It's just solid.
At least in the morning. I think some of the track sessions, it's gotten grosser at night.
Yeah, I think it tends to get a bit more humid at night.
Yeah. Well, our hope is that everyone watching at home has 2 screens with them, so that way you're not picking between us and the race. I feel like if you
don't have 2 screens, you should be picking us.
So we are 2 minutes and 50 seconds in if you want to get on the same page as us as they come through. We got Rika Kaseta, the Japanese athlete, up front about, 15 meters?
We see our good friend Natasha Wodak in the lead pack here.
Is that a Hungarian in second? I feel like adrenaline probably pumping through the veins.
Well, should we talk through some of the heavy hitters? as our friends at the coffee club say in this one.
Talk us through.
There's you know, a true all-star lineup of Ethiopians that are here to claim some prize money and medals. I think the big surprise was that so many of the really talented, you know, people who usually are running majors this time of year.
What is the turnaround?
There's a very tight U-turn, I think right by the cheer zone. Is where they are, that we just watched them go around.
They could have softened that like a tiny bit, no? That was...
You would think, but...
They should have built a roundabout for it.
Yeah. That was crazy. Every lap we're going to have to be doing... I mean, I guess it's not going to be as big of an issue when they thin out a little bit. It'll kill your momentum, but...
It's an exact 10K loop, obviously, from the start as well, because you can see the... Is that a new thing, or have you noticed that before in the marathon? See the way, like, the kilometer splits?
Yeah.
Or they have the markers, but it's on the same one, so, like, 3K...
That's convenient. I just have to do the math.
23K, yeah. So every 10K, it's the same spot.
All right, David, I'm sorry. What were you saying? You were talking about the
There's
race.
a lot of-
I was really into the turnaround.
I was reading through the lap count preview of the marathon course, but there's a bunch of Ethiopians in this. Gotim Gebrselassie, Yehulan, and Amani Bariso, who could really, you know, are presumably turning down a pretty big appearance fee at somewhere like Berlin or Chicago to be here and represent their country, which is exciting because they are some of the biggest talents in the marathon right now. These folks aren't washed up. They are really good right now. So it'll be interesting.
They're not washed up.
No, but like every once in a while, especially with the World Championships marathon, you know, if you're you know, choosing between a huge paycheck at a major versus coming here, sometimes you'll see, you know, it's the East African teams field somebody where it's like, oh, they're PBs from 2015, and like they've been fine since then, but they're not, you know, doing anything special. And it's great to see them really sending it. The Kenyan team is a little less credentialed than the Ethiopian team, but they've got a pretty solid crew. What's exciting from the American perspective is that we have a legitimate medal contender in Kira D'Amato, which is not always the case at these World Championship marathons. Kira's run, as folks probably know, 2:19:11. She got 8th here last year on a very abbreviated build-up. And from what we've heard, training's been going well. She's been looking strong. She just set the American record in the half marathon down at the Golden Coast Marathon in Australia. And so she's clearly fit. She's ready to rock and roll. And it's been quite a while since I don't even know when the last time an American woman medaled.
Amy Hastings-Cragg.
Yeah. So
2017. That I felt like that was not that it was a huge surprise, but I feel like coming in, Kira has more obvious public. I don't know if she said it, but we've been saying it enough for her. Medal hopes, you know. And I don't think she even needs to do anything crazy special at this point in order to get that medal. It's not like she needs a miracle. If she runs what she's capable of, especially in this field, like what is the stat? Like the Ethiopians, despite having crazy good personal bests, do have a pretty high dropout rate. A lot of the athletes actually do have marathons planned for the fall. So
if it's not going well,
like
you just tap out and try again another day. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those races where if it stays packed up pretty early, you mentioned last night on our post-race show, Kira trains in Richmond, Virginia. She's used to the heat. She's used to the summer conditions. So she should be in a pretty good position to contend. And we, you know, not to negate, we see them on screen right now. I believe the two other Americans that are in the race and hopefully going to be near the top for as long as they can be, Susanna Sullivan and Lindsay Flanagan, two runners that have really, you know, taken pretty solid chunks off their PBs in the last couple of years and are kind of, I would say, like right on that cusp of becoming, you know, legitimate contenders on the international stage. You know, Susanna was like, I think 10th at the London Marathon this past spring with a PB of 2:24. don't fact or do fact check me on any of this, but don't be mad at me because I'm pulling all of this from memory. But she's had a real come up in the last couple of years, and is one of those runners that, maybe doesn't get as much, hype if she's in a race like a London or a New York, but in a race like this where, there's fewer contenders, there's only 3 Americans. It's great that she's got the opportunity to really show off the skills. And she's right at the top front right now. I know we're not commentating, but she is. Sure. Yeah, we have a Hungarian and an American going stride for stride at the front of this big pack right now. It's not crazy fast. There's still a big group with them, but they're the ones setting the pace at the moment. And you can see Kira D'Amato right over Susanna's shoulder there, playing it chill, not doing any extra work as these folks come around down that main. I wish I knew any of the names of the streets in Hungary, but.
All right, 2:33 marathon pace, so kind of chill. It's kind of weird having like such a small pack, huh? Like,
Yeah,
it's like normally there's 50,000 people behind everyone, and instead it's like,
I suppose with the championship ones, they tend to start off a little slower, so it keeps everyone, I suppose, motivated to stick with it at the start, and it keeps it a bit interesting compared to like the majors where they're just going after the times.
It's nice not to have rabbits.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I do kind of... The fact that some of the World Marathon majors have rabbits and others don't, I think makes it interesting. Like in tennis, you have grass courts and clay courts and whatever the other court is.
Some of the majors don't have rabbits in them.
No.
Not in Boston.
New York does not.
Yeah.
Chicago has flip-flopped through the years.
And why is that?
I get a race, baby.
Yeah. I don't know. I
Fair.
mean, New York and Boston, you're not going to run
Boston,
fast
that's
no
what I'm
matter.
saying, Boston, yeah. Is New York a fast course? No.
No, especially this last year. A lot of people were saying it was running about 20 minutes slow.
Does this bring back memories?
Nightmares. Yeah. I'm actually signed up for a marathon in like 3 weeks that I signed up for like 6 months ago, and I forgot
Which one
about
is it?
the Yonkers Marathon. I got an email. It's like local to me. And it was $50 to sign up, like early bird, and it's the second oldest marathon in the world behind Boston. And like my family's from Yonkers, and so I was like, I'll sign up and do it. And
That explains why you've been running 100 miles.
I've kind of been running 25 to 30 miles a week here for a while. So
last summer you were in Ireland, and we met up and we did one of your marathon prep workouts.
Yeah.
I think it was 4x2 mile. Of course, that was the day Luke McCann had the accident. Yeah, so Luke McCann was on his break, and he came out on the bike pacing Kyle and myself, and we were about 2 reps into the 4x2 mile and going across a pedestrian crossing. I suppose Luke just wasn't familiar with the brakes on a bike, and
All gas, no brakes, baby.
went straight into a car. And really like slit open his lower lip. Like there was like a gap where you could see like from the outside to the inside. So kid was like obviously needed stitches badly. So we were 2 reps in. So he definitely needed to be brought to hospital. So he was on my bike too, my nice racer. That was absolutely a write-off. But
every crisis is an opportunity.
Yeah.
Get some, Kylie Jenner lips out of the surgery.
I know, I was gutted. Like I was like, oh no! But like the first thing that went through my mind is like, shit, I'm not going to be able to finish this workout. Yeah,
I stood around awkwardly for like 5 minutes.
What's the David McCarthy angle on the injury?
No, so Kyle rocked down with the marathon or the session, and I rushed Luke down to A&E, and but all good. He recovered well. Yeah. So looking back now on your preparation for New York last year, and you had the ambition of 2:20, which is 5:20 mile pace, right?
Yeah, we missed.
So what's your looking back on it like?
Here's my expertise for these women is if it's warm out, slow down.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different than when it's 45, 50 degrees out. Like even today, like it's a beautiful morning for us to be able to like drink coffee on the deck or something. It's enjoyable out, but
when you're running that pace.
What you just had it on your phone, like it is still.
So
it's not marathon nice.
No, and it's going up now. I'm Celsius, but it's going up 2 degrees each hour. So
70 in the 70s. I mean, that's warm for a marathon. It is like 70, 80% humidity, so it's not humid. That's for sure. I'm also laughing at. I know probably folks are more familiar with Kyle's running journey in the YouTube chat. I don't know if anyone else is defending me, but I like that we're sitting here like, Kyle, you're clearly the most experienced and credentialed marathoner of the three of us. Tell us run us through how one should run a marathon.
I'm ready to move on from my marathoning career and focusing on literally anyone else's.
When you took it on, right, and you look back to your college days, like you don't make a big thing of 5:20 pace, but I think when you have to put 26 miles back to back, it becomes a completely different story.
Well, I mean, you look at them now, like they are jogging, and granted, like a lot of these women can run 15 minutes faster than the pace that they're currently running. But like the beginning of a marathon should be so easy.
Yeah.
Like they are chilling. Is that Salpeter who's moved to the front?
That's what it looks like. Yeah, Lona Salpeter of Israel, who has a couple medals. She has had some kind of ups and downs and close calls. If folks remember, she finished 4th in Tokyo. She got the bronze last year, I believe, after a good bit of just like being up there grinding, going for medals at the World Olympic level for the last couple of years. So that was exciting to see. And she's certainly someone who could contend. She's run 2:18, and clearly she likes championship style racing. So
she's a good example of someone who like continues to run at the global championships despite having the opportunity to collect paydays. Yeah, I mean you can do both. I think that's why the Ethiopians all do this though, is like for the Olympics. Get on good terms with the federation.
I also think, you were talking about 5:20 pace, feeling easy, staying relaxed. One of the things that you see a lot more in races like this is that one of the ways you can sort of put a little hurt in your opponent's legs early is by doing a little of that yo-yoing, that sort of fartlicking, search for a little bit. It's not real move, but it's just enough to make people sort of a little uncomfortable and not be in that, early race rhythm of just turning off your brain and staying consistent. So it's not uncommon to see, some of the heavy hitters or their teammates, sort of messing with the field a little to just do a little early race shenanigans. I like that they gave them sponges to cool down. It looks like the Ugandan team has packed up near the front here.
Have we seen the sponges before? Or the sponges new to Budapest? Because I haven't recall ever seeing them
before. As Chris reported at the 2016 marathon trials in the U.S., they had sponges, but didn't realize that the ones they had ordered had like soap baked into them. So they were like, up. It was really hot, and like there were these soapy sponges that they couldn't use to cool off of. So hopefully the requisition team for the Hungarian marathon championships was thought through their Amazon order when they picked up these sponges.
So I know we're going to talk a lot about the Ethiopians and Americans, but I think our best hope from Kenya is Rosemary Wanjiru.
She won Tokyo this year.
Looked great. Won the Tokyo Marathon. She was second in Berlin last year. I always like to see like you have more than one.
Yeah.
Like if you've done it, because the marathon's obviously one that's hard to get right. So, if you've done 10 and you won one, I don't know. But if you've consistently been good.
Look at this turn.
Yeah, they are setting
this
them around.
This turn is ridiculous.
What would it do to you? Like just kill all momentum.
Yeah, but
right?
and then imagine as the race goes on, the legs are dead. That is just.
It's going to be hot
awful.
Later on, like when they get on their last loop and they got to do this turn. This was remember the LA. Speaking of LA, remember the last turn into the finish it looked like this U-turn, and Galen looked like he was.
Yeah,
it looked like his legs were gonna snap.
Yeah, I mean you do just get into such a rhythm, so then to have to break it like that.
I always look at like the triathlon courses and like how brutal they are, but like triathletes are just so used to those constant sharp turns.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you don't think about as much in the marathon usually, but does, add up incrementally, especially if they're doing this course 4 times with a couple different turns, is the smaller runners that have that lower center of gravity or those shorter legs. It's much easier for them to tight around those turns.
It's one turn. It's all right.
Sure.
We got Rosa Chacha from Ecuador is up at the front here.
5K split, 17:48. She saw that. She said, "We got to get going." I don't really understand why you'd ever surge this hard this early.
And like nobody is going to panic when she takes off.
Yeah, you can't just like, oh, someone's going, I'm going to respond to every move 5K in. I guess like presumably the idea and potential hope is that nobody responds and then you can just run away with it and they all just jog the entire race and you win.
Her
Right?
PB is 228, so I don't think any of
Maybe that's what she's dreaming about right now, Kyle.
She's trying to win.
The Hungarian crowd has been absolutely electric at these track sessions. I have to imagine he sounds like we might get a report from the course from Chavez in a couple minutes. But
What do we think they're saying in this?
A couple of minutes.
He's on the bed right here. He's going to get going.
But clearly the crowd, especially because they get to all crowd in this 10K loop, is going to hopefully be a big factor for these runners as they're going.
What do we think they're saying in this interview right now on split screen?
We heard Chris Chavez was going to be out here.
I love
still
track
inside.
and field. I love CITIUS Mag.
We're watching on the local Hungarian TV stream, so there's no audio, and they're doing a lot of fan split screen interviews right now, and it's pretty incredible.
Something that the 10K loop is very much in the heart of the city. Like this isn't like we're off and
It looked kind of in Eugene last year. It looked a bit out there, wasn't it?
it was a little more out there. Yeah.
The Springfield, Oregon marathon.
And was Eugene a lap again as well, like a 10K loop or something like that?
Yeah, it wasn't a
longer
perfect
than
10K.
but or maybe it was shorter. I don't know, but it wasn't like
It looked
It
like
wasn't
it was out on
super
some country
repetitive.
road, like or a little bit of it.
I was a big fan of the bikes that could follow. I know a lot of people freaked out and were like, "Oh, this is bad. This this is everyone complains about everything."
We're definitely gonna see some people just pulling some tricks on their Lime scooters.
But it was hey, that's actually not a bad idea, Mitch. If you could get on a tier or a Lime scooter.
Yeah.
And it is worth saying it looks like Susanna Sullivan has caught up to Cha-Cha as they gap this field by a little bit, not by a ton, but not by nothing.
You do see all the fans running along with the athletes too, which is pretty fun. But obviously, if you had a bike, a little easier.
There seems to be no rules with the Lime scooters here, so you might be able to get away with just
There are no
being
rules overall,
next to the motorcycle here.
I will say one of my main takeaways from Budapest so far is that drivers, bikers, scooterers, they don't care if you're coming at them. They don't care if they're running you down. Like they are just going to their destination, and they will take whatever bodies they gotta put on the floor to do it.
Do they have the scooters in any of the cities in the States?
Not New York, but in some of like the more mid-sized cities, they do.
I mean, they're so handy here.
They're so
they're
fun.
lifesavers going down to the stadium every evening.
I finally got honked at yesterday. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, I mean that was totally my fault.
One of the ways to
I almost got T-boned.
easily get pegged as an American here is to not respect the light crossing.
Yeah, as we were
signs.
coming down today, you were flying down the opposite side of the road.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
All right, so the thing to know about Budapest is it's actually split in two by the river. So they started
Danube.
in Pest, and they're running to Buda right now over the chain link fence bridge. Is that the name of it?
I don't.
Is that the translation? So they're going over to the other side now. We went over to the other side a few days ago to check out the baths, the thermal baths. Turns out
They're literally only given about 200 meters of the marathon on Buda.
there you go.
Maybe even more. To be fair, I know we were talking about how tight the bend is. The course actually looks cool, and it looks entertaining enough. I think.
And it's pancake flat. I mean, they really only.
Oh, look, they're going through this cool tunnel here now.
Yeah.
Oh, not a lot of fans in there.
They don't let them.
What will that do to the GPSs?
Everyone will be complaining that the course is short
Yeah.
because their GPS is going to be saying 24 miles at the end of it.
If you're running a marathon, are you obviously you're looking at your splits and that? Are you splitting it at every, we'll say, mile marker, or like are you allowing your watch to get that satellite?
I'll have the splits on because it's just easy, and just usually I'll kind of keep like half, especially in the early miles. Like you keep half an eye on like how far you are from the stated markers. Definitely on a point to point marathon where your GPS is usually staying pretty close, like it doesn't get too fucked up by the turns. That can be easier. When I did Chicago a couple of years ago, I did have to had to split at a mile marker to reset my watch, because the first couple miles of Chicago are all through like tunnels and towers and stuff, and like I think it said I ran like a 4:25 first mile or something.
And would you not then just have no split on and then just split it yourself at each?
No, because I like not having it, like, because if it is relative, because at the same time it's like it'll be relatively close, assuming you don't get like really messed up. Like it'll be roughly a mile, like even if you're like off by a couple seconds, and early on you don't need to know
a mile at the end.
No, it'll be a mile either way, whether it's like exactly on the mile splits or not. And you don't need to know your cumulative time, you need to know what pace you're running. So.
I ran Berlin half this year, and I didn't have, I kind of split it at the markers myself, but like my overall finishing time my overall distance was 13.4 miles. Like that's a fair
There's
bit
a lot
off.
of twists and turns, and I think the big thing, I mean, I remember, not to throw her under the bus, but at a marathon project, Sarah Hall ran like 2:20 mid or something like that. And after the race, Ryan said something along the lines of like, yeah, we were doing workouts and training that showed she was, right on 2:19 pace. And, what we realized after the race was that like her watch came through 2:19 at marathon pace, and it seemed like the GPS might have added a couple seconds. We're like, yeah, that's how it works. You guys are like lifelong professional marathoners. You never notice that like courses run longer than the watches. Like, come on.
And like I suppose when if you're running a marathon, are you paying like close attention to like that blue line of like the shortest route through it?
If it's like a lot of turns, certainly. I think the bigger thing is just not spend a lot of time outside the pack if you do have a pack to run with. Although Susanna Sullivan doesn't seem to mind that right now. She is out front by herself.
At what point do we allow ourselves to get excited? It's like, we're coming up to just 5 miles. When are we like, they're kind of letting her go. Like, what can we do here?
Do we let ourselves dream?
After 20.
Yeah, I mean, I think if she's got a minute lead at halfway, that's a lot of work for them to catch up. But we're not there yet, not at all.
Maybe it's pretty smart, get your hard running in while it's a little bit cooler, and
that's a good point. Yeah,
when it's about to get hot in the next 45 minutes.
Get into your own rhythm.
It's going to be really hot for everyone. Everyone's going to slow down.
We're going to know in 2 hours.
Yeah, and Susanna's.
I can't wait.
She's also based in the South, right? She's from DC or something like that. Yeah. So she knows hot human running as well as anyone.
Did you see Unchained, the Netflix documentary about cycling? I thought that there was a really cool scene in which they showed like basically how team tactics work, and like they've explained it to the more common fan, like the ability to drag it out and like allow that one person to break away, and maybe this benefits others somehow on Team USA. This is team tactics if it works out.
I'm glad you brought up cycling, because I did not know jack shit about cycling until 2 months ago, when I became a massive Tour de France fan in like the space of a week.
Yeah.
And that is like what I now say to, I think because I knew so little and now know enough, watched Unchained, followed it well enough to know what's going on. I like to think I've gotten good at explaining cycling to people who have no idea. And the Tour de France is essentially like what if on every team of 8 on every team there's 8 people, 6 of them are rabbits. Like it's like if you're like, oh, Kira D'Amato, she's going for the win in this. Everyone else on the U.S. team is really explicitly told, like, you are not here for yourself. Like, you are here to make sure Kira is in a good spot with 5K to go.
It's not what was
race.
happening, but imagine if.
No, it would be fun. And you know, we saw that in the 10K with Uganda. You know, they had a guy out there whose job was to keep it honest for Cheptegei.
So that was
Yeah,
8K
but that
that
was-
she just ran through, by the way, 28:23.
You see, like sometimes we think like, oh, are they doing team tactics? But I don't know, like, does it really end up being that way a lot of the time? But you have to think that if they did do it, it would play out to an advantage. In cycling, they are clearly following that. But like in the 10K, the Ugandan was so far ahead to be of any benefit to Cheptegei.
Then I guess now, you know, she's got what, a 16 to 20 second lead on the field. In theory, if this was cycling, if you're American teammates, Lindsay or Kira, you're just like, all right, we're not the ones to push the pace. Like, let's try to allow her to break away. Again, this is all theoretical. This is not what's actually happening.
You never know. I mean, I remember Ryan Hall saying that he did that when Meb won Boston in 2014. He was in that pack that didn't chase when Meb broke away. And I remember him saying in the post-race interview, like, one of the things he was trying to do was keep the chase pack slow to give Meb as much of a cushion as possible once he knew he was out of it. So you never know. Crazier things have happened.
That was a good graphic, huh?
Yeah.
The K splits, like by bar graph.
Oh yeah, and
Yeah, so the most recent, the 8th K, 3:26, her fastest yet. So picked it up slowly as we head back to Pest. Here.
She's got about a 30-second lead on the pack right now. We're sending our field correspondents.
Chris,
out
come
on
say
the course.
hello before you go out. Give us a quick vibe check indoors and then vibe check outdoors.
Chris, when do you think they'll start running faster than your mile pace?
They already did, probably. Yeah, no, I mean, it's early right now. It's hot, and I'm ready to go out there and get a check for, you know, what the fan base is like. We know the stadium's been rocking. It seems like some people are out there early. The race walk environment was great, so I wouldn't expect anything less for the marathon.
You know what they should do? They should have like field events going on during the marathons. That way we know.
Aren't they doing stuff like that for Paris?
Field events?
Yeah, I think I hear something like they're doing some of the events in the city.
Oh, wow. What about like during the race, though? Because we
Yeah,
know
that'd be
Hungarians
sick.
love field events.
I want the pole vault to be taking place over the competition.
There was like some stages set up for some bands and whatnot when I was running yesterday. I think there's probably some music. There's good vibes.
Did you go into Buda yesterday on your run? Or
No. Definitely not running far enough to need to do that. All right, so Salpeter still up front. Njiru. There's Gamechu from Ethiopia. All the
It's
contenders.
different from last year's race. By this point last year, there was already a breakaway pack, and it was like 5 or 6 women contending for the medals. Right now, it's everyone's ball game.
I mean, from my Vince McMahon perspective, the longer everyone is in it, the better.
Oh, totally. But also, it's kind of like last year. I think like we were keeping very close tabs on Team USA and just the smart approach to racing that they had, because there was so much carnage in the second half of the race that they were just picking them off one by one. And I guess we don't have someone right now who's from this group of Kenyans and Ethiopians that are just like putting their foot basically all the way down on the gas to break everybody. So they're being a bit more conservative, and that's because of, you know, how hot it is.
So Gamechu there from Ethiopia in second, or was second in Tokyo to Winjiru. So a little opportunity for redemption on this one. should be familiar with one another. They look like they're closing on Susanna a little. Like that, it's a bit of a surge that's gone in, approaching
Great move by her
10K.
to just attack.
The question is, because they're going to not obviously, but most likely reel her back in here. And how do you respond? Like, do you just, I think you lay off the lead, don't try to respond, just get back in the pack, gather yourself.
Yeah, you wonder, is it like, is she running just to kind of for her own pace, or is she trying to break away, and if she does get caught, is it a matter of just still focusing what she's doing, or will it distort her rhythm, because if somebody pulls away that soon and then they get caught and it completely messes up their race, it wasn't a really well thought move.
Yeah, I agree. They're actually rolling right now. Like the stride pattern is so drastically changed. And you can see how quickly it's thinned out.
Yep. So
see him,
cue, basically, as I was saying that.
Good man.
This is a significant surge that they close that 20-second gap here really quickly, approaching the water station.
Yeah, here's the thing. They're getting bottles every 5K here.
We're talking to Lindsay Flanagan the other day, and she was saying that she takes every 7.5K.
Yeah. Strategic, I think.
So I don't know how you do that out here. I guess you could eat 5K and 7.5K, close enough at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Dropping the sponge is kind of like a banana.
I know, right? I was just thinking that.
In
It's
Mario
like,
Kart.
you're setting this up for someone to slip or anything like that. I mean, even just dropping one of the bottles, like.
Yeah, they do just drop it. Like you could toss it a little bit. What are you guys up to?
We never met before.
We're just talking international stuff.
we saw each other in the distance in the mix zone in Stockholm and Bislett. Yeah.
It was beautiful.
This one's I'm watching the guy, obviously, all the way on the left in orange, who's filming with his GoPro there. And this is definitely not like last year's marathon where we saw spectators all along the course with the bikes, which I thought was very cool. This one, I think you do have to get a little bit strategic. Mitch and I think are going to jump on some scooters.
35-31 through the 10K.
Susanna has been caught.
Yeah, but she did well to. I think naturally, actually, it looks like the pace is slowed once they reeled her in. It's not like they blew by or kept the pace going. I'm sure that 10th K was.
Yeah, what's this look like? This looks like a pack of 25.
We haven't seen Lindsay yet much on screen.
There's Whiteman up there as well.
Yeah, I was looking at Whiteman's progression. She's 44 and she ran her PB in the marathon this year. Her progression has been unbelievable. Since 2020, she's knocked, in the last 3 years, she's knocked 3 minutes.
Yeah, she's in a special rhythm at the moment. And I'm not exactly sure what it is. She's had a body of consistency. She's been to so many championships and most of the time she performs really well. She'll be I think, not to knock the other two, but she'll probably be our best out there for Australia.
No Sinead Diver here?
No, she'll be running, she's running Sydney Marathon.
Okay, so she kind of skipped this.
Yeah, so they're on a big push to make it a world major. So they're trying to attract all the key Aussies and a couple of, I think some of the Kenyans, Ethiopians are going to be rolling through.
What'll the course in Sydney be like?
It's relatively flat, but this time of year, it does start to get kind of hot.
Yeah.
But her and Brett are both running, so both our Australian record holders are going to be having a nudge at it. It would have been nice, because we got no men tomorrow, so it would have been nice to have some guys out there. But
who would be your other top Australian marathoners at the moment besides Brett?
Probably Liam Adams is our next one for Australia. He ran a 2:08 at the Gold Coast, and he's 38 years old. He works full time as an electrician. So
wow.
He doesn't even have any sponsors, any funding, and he's been to, I think he'll go to his third Olympics next year. So he's up next. And then, just this morning, Jen Gregson won our national cross country champ. She's been killing it. She's our national half marathon champion
Yeah,
as
I saw
well.
that,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, she's
really taken to the distance, isn't she?
she has been flying. So she'll be like, the thing with Australia, like this women's marathon team is our hardest team to make come Paris next year. So like women like Lisa in this race, like will want to do really well to, I guess, sort of like help their case for next year, because there's a lot knocking on the door. So she looks good. Like she'll move through really late. Like she looks pretty strong there at the moment. So hopefully she can like creep her way up into that top 20. Yeah, this pack has been moving well.
Yeah, as soon as
still pushing.
Immediate response. Kind of interesting. I would have thought that she'd just settle back into the pack, just, get comfy. But
That TV time bonus on your contract.
if you have that'd be a good bonus. That'd be cool. But the ability to just like ignore what everyone else is doing and just say, "Hey, this is the pace that I think I can run today. I'm just gonna go out and do it."
Out to the TV time bonus. Oh, there's the
Look at this guy.
sideline correspondent we have to go find.
I think we just stand next to him and just jump in on his interviews. Sort of like piggyback off him. Yeah, that's what I was
He
thinking.
looks like a Hungarian John Oliver.
He does, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so Susanna has company now, as we've got one of the Japanese athletes.
Rika
What
Casetta
shoes
again.
is Susanna wearing there? Who's she sponsored by?
Brooks. She
Brooks.
has recent sponsorship, but has been training this entire marathon training block in Brooks. So really cool to see Brooks throwing their support behind Susanna. I think what happened was after the signing, she's dropping some of the tutoring from her. She's a full-time school teacher, still at that. I think school year's starting up right about now. So nice PTO. And then with the professional contract, she won't have to do some side tutoring that she was doing before. So frees up a lot of time in the lead up to the U.S. Olympic marathon trials, which, you'd have to think like a race like this, Kyle, right? Like 12 o'clock in Orlando is what everyone's been talking about. And
It'll be similar. Yeah, I mean, I would say
there's Kira.
a real opportunity for Kira, Lindsay, and Susanna to practice. Look, especially if one of them comes out and really crushes this right now, I'd say they ascend to the top of the discussion about who might be making that team next year.
It's different, isn't it? Like comparing the States to, we'll say,
I know.
Australia, or having trials in a marathon.
Yeah, we don't have any of that. I reckon it'd be cool though if we did.
London
have a trial.
did it for the last Worlds, right? They finally brought in the trials, or the last Olympics. London,
England.
England.
Yeah. I think when you have the body and like the depth that some of you guys do have, then it makes total sense, right?
It's fun too. It's like a good product.
Yeah.
So it's just whoever's top three, that's it. As long as they got the time.
Yeah, it's like sort of complicated the way it works. So I guess this is, if there's ever been a forum in which it makes sense to explain this might be it.
Yeah.
2.5 hour watch along. But essentially, you have to have achieved at least a certain time, which is
Yep.
well, we basically like certain amount of Americans need to run at least 2:08:10, but then in order to qualify at all, you have to be top 3 and have run 2:11.
The B standard of
And
sorts.
so, like,
Okay.
you have to hit the B standard in order to qualify, and then the American slots will be allotted based off of how many total men or women have run under the A standard. On the women's side, we have plenty of,
they're so good.
like, like it's not even a question. Whereas on the men's side, it's a little bit more up in the air of whether or not we would definitively send 3. In all likelihood, it's going to go to rankings. It'll probably work out, but so many American men just choose to run the New Yorks and Bostons, in which it's really not fast enough to
Get
go
two
after that A
opportunities.
standard.
You got, the women have just been in a whole nother level right now. So that's like those 3 spots already unlocked. Keeps it simple for the broadcast in February, where it's just top 3, and they're going to Paris.
So, like, in a perfect world, Zach, runs the A standard, Zach Panning tomorrow, or Elkanah Kabet, just like open
Get it
up
out of
those
the way.
slots for everyone. It would benefit any American if
Yeah.
they do that.
So you're rooting for each other, really. It's like you want to see as fast as everybody can possibly go, just to open it
It's
up.
a little bit of a prisoner's dilemma, honestly, because I think in best case, with the trials being when they are, the first day of March. When is it? No, February 3rd, beginning of February. Should book that flight. The idea being like, maybe you don't want to do a fall marathon, but it's, someone's got to do.
All right, David, let's switch out because Mitch and I are going to go hit the course.
Let's rock.
Yeah, I was
Nice,
just
boys.
saying from the
Enjoy.
sidelines,
See you again, man. Yeah, you too, man.
definitely going to be a solid group of U.S. men cheering for Scott Fauble at the Berlin Marathon this fall, because he's one of those guys who is doing a fall marathon and could potentially be.
Has he done Berlin before?
No, he did Rotterdam for his first one, and then I think he's mostly done
New York,
US
Boston,
majors
yeah.
since then.
I feel like the Americans really get the PBs if they can get the form right when they come over and they do one of the European marathons.
And then the idea is like you get the PB and then you can turn around and get the appearance fee,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
but
yeah.
like,
And the standard is fast. I mean, there's only like I want to say like 7 or 8 Americans ever that have run under 2:08.
Yeah.
It's not a long list. And it's not like, there's I think like 10 or 11 women that are just this cycle that have run under the Olympic standard in their side. So it really it's a hefty bar to clear for sure.
well, we were talking to Andrew Castor about this because obviously Nico, A6 athlete, is running tomorrow, and I was like, how come the Americans PBs don't line up with how well we perform at global championships or world marathon majors? The idea being we don't run the fast courses, we run races, and that's a different mindset. That's also different preparation. It's also then just about being a gamer rather than just time trialing everything and stepping
Yeah, I
up.
think from a spectator point of view, it's like, being from Ireland and seeing, like, it's more exciting watching the American marathons because I feel they are more of a race, compared to your pacemakers in the European ones, and then your bunch of Africans out front, and then you don't see anything behind. And
Valencia too. Now,
Yeah.
like I would say if it goes, I don't want to see pacers and rabbits for like medium fast times, but when you get to a certain point, it's like, all right, now I'm in.
Yeah, and it's also until relatively recently, the marathon was like seen as this, it was the old man's game, right? You stay on the track doing your 5K, 10Ks as long as you possibly can before you move up in distance. And it's a relatively recent phenomenon that some of these guys are, moving up in distance to the marathon in their 20s sooner rather than later. And I think that'll definitely start rewriting the all-time list as well.
Well, I mean, the conversation with Nico is so obvious that he was like a marathoner even early in his career.
because
so why wait?
Like there's a learning. It's not just a fitness thing, isn't it? Like there's a learning of how to race the marathon as well that takes time, and probably like hardening of the body over time as well. So, I think like we were saying kind of with Nico, like a lot of guys sometimes think they can just move from track and be a world class track runner and take to the marathon, but it's not always the case. And I suppose we kind of saw that with like Mo Farah, and
there's
that,
so many different pieces beyond the training too.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the things that is super underrated in the marathon is that you can be the best runner in the world, but if you can't take a gel to save your life,
the fuel,
you're fucked. And as especially one of the things that you have to get your reps in that's really hard to simulate in training is timing your hydration right, timing your fueling right. It's so much harder to take a gel 20 miles into a race than 5 miles into a tempo. It's just a different experience, and that's a lot of the preparation in that sense is something that you just need to get out and race to really experience.
Yeah, we've really seen the surgeons and and they're, like really dialing into the detail of fueling, especially since we've seen like Kipchoge's sub 2 hour attempts and how big the fueling process was around that. And like now, so what is it? On every 5K, they're fueling?
Yeah, about right.
Yeah, I mean that's you were talking about Lindsay trying to sort of be really diligent. One of the things that is so like hard to convince yourself to do in a marathon is that you have to like essentially pre-hydrate and pre-fuel. You know, once you're feeling that bonk coming on, it's too late.
Yeah.
And especially in a race like this where it is warm, and it's just warm enough that you could get in trouble later and just cool enough that you don't feel like you're in trouble now. And that's when you need to be, even if you don't feel like you need to take a full bottle, that's when you need to really convince yourself that's you know, what you need to do in that moment, because 30 minutes from now is when you're going to feel the effects of the bottle.
Even like you see a lot of people now, like they're taking a gel on the start line, you know, getting their 20 grams of carbs into them just before, and obviously they've had their oatmeal or whatever that morning, and even sometimes having a carbohydrate drink with your meal the night before. And you got to imagine too, like over here, like a big part of like how well people run today is how well they've fueled throughout the week here. It's been so hot. So,
and not to make this the cycling broadcast, but, you know, one of the things I think marathoning and distance running is learning from the cycling world is that actually you should be trying much harder to get more calories in your system during the race, and obviously Morton and their gel technology was a big breakthrough, but the overwhelming sort of scientific body of knowledge is that most marathoners do less than they should in terms of getting fuel in during the race, like not doing the bare minimum to keep going, but really maximizing, thinking about it as not what's the least I can eat to get through this race, and instead thinking about it as what's the most I can eat to get through this race is really, that's, you know, even in the cycling world, when they do those time trials, there's a really interesting segment about this where, you know, it's only like a 30-minute race, the time trial stages, and they're still fueling the entire time. Like you think, oh, it's a 30-minute race, I can just get through it without taking a bunch of calories. But the science shows that you're way better off, you know, being as carved up as you can tolerate.
All right, so the women now have, like, this is the move. I think this is where we're seeing
all four Ethiopians right at the front. That's a sign for sure.
Is this the move that's going to decide whether or not you're a medal contender? Like, I think if you're not responding at this point 50 minutes in, then it's going to be hard to close this gap later unless disaster strikes. But it being a relatively conservative first 7-8 miles, like, it kind of buys you a little bit more wiggle room. So they're going for it now, and Kira hanging off the back of that pack, trying to establish herself as a medal contender.
At the same time, we just got a clip of Lindsay Flanagan in that second pack, and that's the kind of move, you know, if you knowing her abilities and knowing her capacity and measuring it well, you can really play the long game, right? If Lindsay knows, you know, if this race is 1 and 2:20, I'm probably not going to be on the podium. But if it turns into carnage of all these women up front, and, you know, somebody who runs 2:24 can, you know, pick up the pieces, she doesn't want to be in that first pack trying to hang on. She wants to be running her race knowing that in miles 22, 23, there's going to be some cratering people up ahead of her that she can go get. So someone like her being in that second pack, I feel good about that being sort of the best long game that she could be playing.
Kira just went wide
there.
Yeah. Is that just a tangent?
That looked like a pretty sharp turn. I think the thing that Kira's doing right now is
okay. I was like, oh no.
Oh geez.
Yeah.
She
did who is it who missed the turnoff at the 10K a couple weeks ago? I can't remember who it was, but I think it was Cherry Blossom, right? Where someone was like almost at the finish and followed the cart the wrong way. But no, Kira's right attached to the back of that pack.
So something that's interesting to look at is obviously everyone's lead-in race and how they did. You know, Kira ran Beach to Beacon, finished third there. Lindsay Flanagan ran the Boston 10K, was 14th, but I think was happy with the time and the way things felt. Those like lead-in races, you just can't read too much into them though, right? Like it's a good, because Kira crushed that half.
Yeah.
And
it's probably training block too in marathons. You're probably just a little bit tireder.
Yeah, Lindsay was saying she runs 140 miles a week sometimes.
Miles a week.
So it's just you know, how much is the taper going to be for that race? How are those legs feeling? The difference of a 10K versus a marathon, significant difference of pop needed.
Also, it really depends on the kind of runner you are, right? You know, Kira's shown she's the kind of runner who can race a lot during a build-up and still perform well and still be strong. That just doesn't work for some people.
What kind of mileage do you know is Kira running?
She doesn't run like crazy high mileage. I think she runs something like, and I'm completely pulling this out of my ass, but I think she runs like 90 miles in 6 days.
I don't even think she goes that
Kyle's
high.
pulling up her Strava right now.
I always wonder, like, you know, when people are doing the high mileage, I was like, at what point then do you think it's enough? Like, you know, 140, like, you know, why not go 150 or why not 130? Like, it's so, where does that number come from?
She had
She'll
a
get
high
up to
of
100, it looks like,
100, but like plenty of weeks
Of down.
lower in the
she
70s,
does,
80s.
She does cycles. Look, she
It's a
builds
very
and drops.
obvious, like,
It's a 4-month cycle where it builds every week throughout the month, and then a deload week and builds again. That's pretty cool.
So it's like-
If you're going to be racing pretty frequently, timing that well, I know.
Does she race? Does Kira race kind of frequently?
It's a bit harder in the summer just because there's just not as many road races in July. But in past build-up, she's run. You know, if she's doing Chicago, she'll do Falmouth. She'll do the 20K championships. You know, she's no stranger to racing during a build-up. But I think also one of the things that she has the advantage of is as being 38 or 39, however old she is. She's been doing this for a while, and I think. As well as anyone else, if not better, knows her body and knows how it responds to training, and that is such an asset in the marathon. You know, I know that I do like high-low alternating weeks, and I have learned in training for the marathon that workout that's like 3 or 4 days after a 100-mile week is gonna suck because like the fatigue of the previous week hits me at that point, and being able to have that experience of having a bunch of marathon buildups under your belt and understanding what you as an athlete feel and need and can respond to is so important. And Kira, I think, is one of her like hidden talents is that she really knows her own body as an athlete really well.
So picking up 1748, 1743, 1725 as the 5K splits through 15K.
And this is these are the contenders right here. It's you know, everyone who's got a sub 220.
Oh, there's a puddle. Why did they leave a puddle? I do like that when they threw in that surge, Kira didn't feel the need to cover it as hard as
she looks good.
because they slowed down.
Yeah, she looks like she's running her own race, but she's still there.
And Salpeter's been one of the people that's you know, there was a moment there when they went from that 1740 to that 1720 that the Ethiopian squad was really what was driving that surge. But now that they're all together, Salpeter seems like the one who's got the.
All right, so
got the
update
ants
from
in their
us.
pants
We
in
are
terms of,
on the
you know,
way
being
to the
right up at that
course,
front,
and
kind of
Mitch is
right on the
having
verge
a
of
couple,
keeping the accelerator down.
Well, keeping an eye on our
issues.
ASICS fan.
Are we good?
You know, it seemed like
it's in
there
the
was
red zone.
actually a significant gap
We
that
will make
had
it to the
opened up
race.
between Lindsay Flanagan and Natasha and the rest of the leaders. And as they've slowed down, they look like geniuses because now they're reattaching without having to throw in a crazy kilometer in there. So,
And that's, I think, you know, what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, you know, this sort of early race. It is still early. It's you know, there's probably another 15 minutes till they hit halfway. And these little mind game surges. Oh, really?
they're out there.
They're out there, yeah. I mean, it's early enough in the race that, you know, none of these moves are probably going to be the move, but clearly, you know, the leaders at the front of this pack are gauging off each other, seeing, you know, if I throw in a little surge, who's the one who's quickest to respond, who seems the most fresh and full of races, and that's gonna, you know, inform sort of how you really approach it once you get to the real racing.
All right, so what? We've got 20 or so as they head back to Buda. into the darkness of the tunnel. Yeah, the U-turn definitely a momentum killer, but besides that, I mean,
and you can't really see it from the broadcast, but they do run past a lot of the major landmarks on the course as they go through. It's very scenic, very culturally significant marathon course.
The buildings in Budapest are so crazy. Like every single apartment building, the architecture and details are pretty wild.
The baths looked like a friggin' like Byzantine church. It was crazy.
You know, it's a very nice normal pool.
Kyle is such a hater on the thermal baths. He was disappointed to learn that it is similar in nature to a pool.
Lindsay is now fully back in it. You see her on the outside on the right.
Yeah, this pack has doubled in size as the leaders have let a bunch of folks back into it. It's certainly, it's clear that, you know, this isn't going to be a crazy fast race. You know, they're far enough in now that it's unlikely that this thing's going to be won under 220.
It's going to be a race.
But that means that there's going to be some fireworks once they get to that, you know, 15, 16 miles.
So Amani Bariso has been relatively quiet. Just, you know, I guess all the Ethiopians just really sitting there, not making any moves.
So, Kyle, what's the verdict? Since you brought up Amani Bariso, Valencia, is it a real place?
Valencia is a real place. I think once she, you know, what was the official time in 2:14?
2:14.58, I think was her time there when she announced herself.
For like a crazy personal best, seemingly out of nowhere, you know, to go and run that fast in Valencia. It was just like, what is going on in Valencia? We need to get her on a real course, see what we're looking at. And then goes to Boston, finishes second to Helen O'Beary.
Shows she can run different kinds of races. You know, like that's not a paced race. That's not, you know, a flat course by any means. So I think that even if she doesn't replicate the 2:14, that tells me way more about what she's like as an athlete. If she can do that, you know, really fast Valencia, because you'll see there are some runners that all their quote unquote good performances are rabbited, quick, flat races, and they are never a contender on a course like Boston or New York. So the fact that she can do both is a sign that she's somebody who is going to be a legitimate factor.
People are getting a little bit more frantic about these
the sponges. Yeah, they're starting to heat up now.
They're feeling the heat, baby. Yeah, I will say one of the things I'm always a little envious of, and I guess maybe it speaks more to my own choices in apparel, but the best thing about the women's kits is the sports bras. You can stick gels in there. And I think Kira's been doing that the whole time. Is I think she's got gels on her bottles, and then she'll stick one in her sports bra. And the men have to make do with the assortment of pockets in our shorts. But
and none of the shorts that have all the pockets in them tend to be kind of ones I don't want to race in. Yeah. They're like trail running shorts.
The most recent marathon I did, there was a guy who was right in front of me in the pack. And he had like 3 or 4 gels in his back pocket of his shorts. And they were clearly like kind of old shorts. So the elastic had gone a little bit and they had the weight of the gels. I was staring at his butt crack for like 10 miles. It was ridiculous. I was like, sir, you need a pair of shorts that stays on your hips because this is absurd.
Kyle, are you getting on a starting line if you have that much KT tape on you?
Oh man, the KT tape, I just feel like it signals to everyone else that you didn't have the perfect build up.
Yeah, right. or maybe it's mind games. You get taped up just to like mess with people, like one of those like call an ambulance, but not for me.
Yeah. I'm also looking at Rebecca Cheptegei from Uganda, who's taking the lead at various points, is currently on the front line. Hasn't run a marathon in 2023. Hasn't any race results in 2023. Ran 2:20. Yeah, but like it's kind of like in some way you figure like it's a dark horse situation of you don't know any idea what sort of fitness someone is when they haven't been racing. Has she just been putting in the work the last 10 months.
Is she
But
part of one of those NN run groups or not? Or
I can't say for certain without Googling it, but she's run 222 in Abu Dhabi last year. So,
We've this has slowed down
a lot.
a lot. I think they've all just committed that they're not running fast, and this is now just about winning.
Kickers race.
I mean, it was always about winning, but they don't want to run very hard.
We haven't talked a ton about yet is Yalmzarf Yehula from Ethiopia.
Go off on her.
She was. I'm just like making sure she's in this front pack now, so I don't know nothing about what I'm talking about, but
She's there. Don't worry. Believe.
But so she was part of that killer race in London this past spring. I think she ended up 4th, so she got Hassan and co got the better of her kick wise. But she's one of those people before 214 became more common than it was before. She had one of the fastest debuts ever with a 217.20. When she opened up, she's run a couple 217s now. She's the kind of runner that if this thing comes down to like a hard last 10K, I'm all in on her because she has that, the inability to outkick Safan Hassan is a hard bar for pretty much anyone in the world to clear. But since Hassan is running a ton of other races this weekend and not the marathon, she's got to be one of those folks that is feeling pretty good about a slow race with a fast last 10K attached.
Sort of disappointed we didn't see Safan Hassan go for the quadruple, right? Like,
I know, I was only just thinking of it there as we were watching. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, imagine seeing her out here today and then rocking up to the final later.
she should have just walked in. Like, she should have signed up for the marathon and just.
I wonder what her game plan will be for Paris next year.
The crazy thing with Hassan is like she's broken the conventions of the sport in so many ways. It's like you can't run a marathon and then come back to the 15.
But who did it? Zatopek, right? Didn't he win the 5K, 10K, and marathon?
That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
But it's been done. It's been done.
No super shoes as well.
Well, Rupp did the 10K and the marathon in Rio. Was that when he did that? But I also just think about like just the conventions that Hassan has defied in terms of racing, how frequently you race. Also, in a marathon like this, it used to be like if someone stopped and stretched because they were cramping up, you're like that they're out of it.
No, that was like seeing that last year and then was ridiculous. Seeing
So now, no matter what happens on the screen, I'm like they still got a chance.
We're judging those with KT tape.
Like, I don't understand like how when cramping comes on, it's almost like impossible for it to stop. Like unless it was maybe it wasn't a full blown cramp, or maybe it was just a bit of tightness. But like I don't know, I've never experienced the cramp to come on mid race and then like it just disappears. I think once you go there, you're like we were saying in terms of the fueling and all of that, you're over the edge. But
I mean, I personally have never had a race go badly and then been redeemed.
Once a race,
I have a good race or it goes downhill.
Like, go through that rough patch and come out the other side.
I've never been like, oh yeah, this race is going terrible, but then I totally got my shit together in the second half.
Got a second wind,
Yeah.
No.
I think you need to go to the ultra unless you're Hassan and you're built different. That's the where it gets long enough that you can actually have the full cycles of ups and downs. Oh, we got a report from the course coming up any second now from Chris Chavez. Well, we figured to.
I want you guys to be able to hear it though.
What's your favorite race kit out of all the countries?
Oh man.
Ooh, I did not like the Kenya one when they first rolled it out, and it's really grown on me since.
It's got that kind of, what is it? Is it the Louis Vuitton type look with different colors?
Is that Louis? Yeah, Gucci. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like the.
No, yeah, it's.
The Ugandan kids just because they stand out.
I don't wear a purse. Yeah. I don't carry. They're Louis Vuitton or Gucci. So I don't know the difference.
Burberry.
But maybe his Burberry.
Yeah, I think it
Could the
is.
chat let us know which designer bag uniform?
Different colors. It's the brown. But anyway, sorry, David.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what Chris has to say right here.
Okay, you can see, I mean, good amount of bodies out there. There's a bit of I don't know what country it is. You can hear them down there. There's a big soccer chant going on, so I'm going to assume it's a South American country. But
We can go check it out.
it's starting to get warm. You can feel the heat starting to come off the road a little bit. And that's hot. That is hot. This pack is breaking up, so we'll see how they get moving.
What I like about the course from this angle is that you can see you catch them at multiple different points. If you look over there, you can see that the marker has 5K, 15K, 25K, 35K. So you'll be able to see people as they go by. A lot of clapping for
Good vibes out here. Realistically, like that is hot.
We got a Ferris wheel.
Yeah. And that's been put in just for the marathon as well.
All right. We will check back in with you guys soon.